Since Nintendo released the 3 trailers for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I've probably watched them 200 or so times each, and since the last video I made, probably around 300 times each, and I'm only about half kidding about that. I've watched these trailers over and over again, and I can't stop thinking about how big this game is going to be. We know we're going to be playing in a Hyrule that has changed in some ways. We know we're going to be playing in these floating islands up above, and we know where there's going to be cave systems underneath Hyrule. But I actually think there are going to be 2 other areas we're going to explore in Tears of the Kingdom. In this video, I'm going to really break down what those are, and I'm going to ask the question, is this game going to be too big? Guys, if you're new to my channel, I am an indie YouTuber. It means I don't have that many subs, so every subscription really matters. Every like really matters. So if you wouldn't hit that like button and give me all sub-a-rooney, I would definitely appreciate it. But let's get into this video while I talk about where the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and ask the question, will it be too big? Before I get into this video, if you've been enjoying my Zelda theories, the conversation doesn't have to end here. I actually have a Discord, the link is in the description, where we talk all things Nintendo, Zelda theories, and just have a good time. I also have a Patreon account, and for as low as $1 a month, you get your name at the end of every single one of my videos, and really support the channel. Breath of the Wild is one of the biggest open world games in history. I mean, someone could be playing this game for 300 hours and still not see everything. There's over 120 shrines to find, over 900 correct seeds, and dozens of secrets. Hyrule is just so big and expansive. But people are kind of a little disappointed when we heard that the original Hyrule was going to be back for Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, we've already explored every nook and cranny, so what could we do new? Well, the answer is explore the skies above. There are going to be dozens and dozens of different sky islands to explore. Some very small, some very big. Are there going to be puzzles on these islands? We just don't know. I personally think it's going to be a puzzle in itself just to get up to these islands. And then there's going to be cave systems down below. How big these will be? Nobody really knows right now. We've seen a few shots of the underground, but we don't really know how elaborate and how much time we're going to be spending underground. So my first idea is these cave systems under Hyrule might not just be on the Hyrule we've played before, but what if these cave systems are actually in each island? I mean, these islands do look pretty weird with that little thing hanging down that looks like an antenna, and some of them look pretty meaty. So imagine you're able to explore on top of all these islands, but there's also elaborate maze-like cave systems underneath them. That could give a lot of time of playtime, especially if there's new monsters and new enemies down there. It really could be a good time. Imagine each one of these islands is like almost a shrine in itself. There's dozens of these islands, and if each one has its own puzzles involved, own bad guys involved, and maybe some sort of reward for completing that island, you know, it could just add a lot of gameplay to Tears of the Kingdom. We've already explored every nook and cranny of this Hyrule from Breath of the Wild, so why go back? We do know that some changes are going to be made. We know there's going to be some sort of new weather system with huge storms. We know Malice is going to be spewing out of Death Mountain. We know Hyrule Castle is going to be risen into the clouds by Malice. And we know there's going to be pieces of the floating island system that have fallen down to Hyrule. But I'm sure there's going to be some massive other changes that Nintendo just hasn't revealed yet. But let's talk about one that I think could really invent how we play this game. And in Breath of the Wild, Link was able to swim on top of water. He was able to dive into water, but for some reason, he was never able to go underneath the water. And Link does have a history of swimming. I mean, as early back as Ocarina of Time, I mean, he was kind of swimming. He was mostly just sinking with heavy shoes on. But he's able to explore under the water, solve puzzles, and complete dungeons. If you fast forward to Skyward Sword, underwater swimming is a huge part of the game, and it's actually really fun. I actually like underwater swimming in video games when it's done correctly, and it's very hard to accomplish. Most games, when it comes to an underwater stage, it's just a mess and it's frustrating and it's too floaty or it's too heavy, but if it's done well, it can be done really well. And the best example of this is the newest Horizon Forbidden West game. Very similar to Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn was a huge open world, but you just couldn't put your head under the water for some reason. So for Forbidden West, You can. You could go underwater, and deeper in the game, the deeper underwater you could get. At the beginning, you have to start holding your breath, so you can only swim underwater a little bit, but later in the game, you gain an item, and so you can basically swim underwater as much as you want, explore the cave systems, find secrets, find side quests that are only available underwater. So I think in Tears of the Kingdom, a system like this would be perfect. We're finally able to explore underwater. And just like in Horizon Forbidden West, beginning of the game, maybe you could only go underwater for as long as you could hold your breath, but later in the game, maybe you get some item, or some magic, or a new ability, and you could just swim underwater for basically as long as you want. Just imagine all the underwater physics that could be involved in Breath of the Wild, the amount of puzzles. I'm even okay if there's shrines or dungeons that are based on water mechanics. I mean, as long as they're not horribly frustrating like past Zelda games. But I'm okay with that. Underwater just adds a whole new level of gameplay to the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom map. I mean, it just could make this game almost double in size. So let's recap. We have all of Hyrule to explore once again with all the changes. We have the islands floating above with possible their own cave systems. We have cave systems underneath Hyrule, and then we have water. We have possibly swimming underneath water, which could add a whole new layer. So the question I proposed at the beginning of this video, is this game gonna be too big? And my answer is, give me a hell no! Nothing could be too big in this game. I want Tears of the Kingdom, a game that I could really live in. A game that I could spend hours, hundreds of hours, maybe even 1,000 hours exploring every nook and cranny and never finding everything. This Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom game could never be too big. I want it to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Granted, I do want the option for newer players that maybe don't want to invest that type of time to be able to beat the game quicker, maybe in 50 hours. So a lot of this other stuff, a lot of the underwater exploration, a lot of the puzzle solving on some of the floating islands might be optional, or things you don't necessarily need to beat the game. Maybe you could beat the game pretty quickly if you want to, but you wouldn't have explored every inch of the map, you wouldn't have beaten all the side quests, but leaving options is always a good thing. There's so many different types of players, and the word big is different for everybody. Some people think that a big game is 500 hours, other people think a big game is 20 hours. And there's a lot of people that are going to be picking on this game, so I think it's important that Nintendo makes this game the perfect size for all the players. I hate to leave people out that, just want a 20, 30 hour experience. And, sometimes it's intimidating going into a new game and being like, I have to play this game for 100 hours just to beat it? No thanks. So giving players options is really the key to great game design. But what do you think? Do you think The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be too big? Are you afraid it's going to be too small? Do you think it's going to be just the perfect size for you? Let me know right down in the comments section. I get back to every single one of my comments. I love talking Zelda and Zelda theories. Guys, like I said earlier, the discussion doesn't have to end here. I do have a Discord. The link is in the description. I also have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. But most importantly, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I am an indie YouTuber, like I said earlier. If you want to hit that sub button, give it an old like. It really helps me and helps indie YouTubers just like me. Those subs are just so important to get monetized and really build a community. Guys, thank you again for watching this video. My name is Turbo Jesse, and I'll see you on the flip side.